Hey guys, Reese here and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my channel is all about real estate and personal finance. And not to build myself up as a guru or an expert, but to share my journey on my way to $1 million net worth, which is a goal I set that I would like to achieve by 30. I'm currently 26, and as of the end of 2020, this video is going to break down my net worth here on the channel for the first time. I wanted to make this video, one, to kind of just talk about this, but two, to be a jumping off point for one of my future videos of my 2021 goals. I can't quite set goals for this coming year without first explaining where I'm at for this year. Now, before we go ahead and jump into today's video, I'd love to ask you guys to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new here, as well as like this video, as it really helps me out a lot. Now, I really started focusing on my net worth and personal finance in general when I graduated from college as a computer engineer back in the end of 2016, December 2016. And so when I started my first job in the beginning of 2017, I had a little bit of student debt, around $13,000. And I had a little bit of money in the bank from co-op's previous summers, and that was $10,000. So I was starting out with a negative net worth of $3,000. And you know, we all have to start somewhere. So this was my starting point 3 years ago, and let's talk about how I progressed to where I'm at today. Now, over the last 3 years, I moved from Columbus to Cleveland, worked as a computer engineer, moved back to Columbus, bought 3 duplexes. So a lot has happened over the last 3 years. Now, pretty much all of 2017, I stayed in Cleveland. I worked as a computer engineer, and then I realized I really wanted to get into real estate investing. A couple buddies of mine at the time were flipping homes here in Columbus, Ohio. And so I decided, I can get a job pretty much anywhere as a computer engineer. I'm going to go ahead and leave Cleveland and move to Columbus so I can be surrounded by people that are succeeding in a field that I want to explore. And so I started my search for a duplex in Columbus while I was still living in Cleveland. And I got in contract on one and ended up moving to Columbus in April of 2018 and moved into my first duplex. Now, that first duplex of mine is in an area called Milo Grogan. It's a lower income area, but it's very close to a lot of development, very close to a lot of nice neighborhoods. And so I moved in as an owner occupant, and I actually bought that property with a friend of mine as well, who I bought all 3 of these properties with. We bought that property for $166,000, and we put 5% down as an owner occupant loan, and I lived there for the next year. And this property did not cash flow really, but it was in an area where it was appreciating quickly, and we expected to be able to raise rents rather quickly as well as we renovated the units and got new tenants in that were paying market rent. Now, that property is currently worth $205,000. We did a little bit of work to one side, but really all of that is just from appreciation in the neighborhood. We still to this day have not renovated either units to completion because we've had paying tenants in there and we've moved on to buying more properties. Now, we will be vacating one of the units here in the next couple months, renovating that and getting the value up to closer to maybe $250,000. However, that's coming later down the road. And for my net worth calculation, we'll use the current value of $205,000. We have debt on the property of $155,000, which is the original loan we took out on that property. We desperately need to refinance that loan as we can get it from a 4.625 down to a 2.85. But anyway, side note, and that leaves $50,000 of equity in that property. Now, I bought the next property with the same partner a year later. It was a campus rental. And, throughout that whole year previous, I had still been working as a computer engineer. I was working at Nationwide at the time and, saving money. And then me and my partner pushed in on another owner occupant a year later, and we proceeded to invest $40,000 into that property and hundreds of hours of labor between us in that property as well. It was a very difficult time. We did a large renovation, and every day consisted of coming home from work at around 4 or 5 p.m. and then working till 10 p.m. to get the property completed. That went on for 8 months. That was pretty miserable, to be honest with you. Now, we actually recently did a cash out refinance on that property, and it appraised at $485,000. And we got new debt on the property at a substantially lower interest rate, in total $329,000. And the funny thing with this is, even though we got a lot more debt on the property, the payment stayed the same because the interest rate dropped by by a full percent, which is really nice because we continue to keep cash flowing substantially. That leaves equity in this property of $156,000. Now, between the second and third duplex that I bought with my partner, I went ahead and left my job at Nationwide and went full-time into real estate, doing real estate sales. And I also left to be able to continue my real estate investing career and start to scale bigger. Now, we bought our most recent duplex in June of 2020, and we bought that property for $160,000. And we went ahead and put another 40 into it. This time not doing all the work ourselves, thankfully, but we did pay contractors to do the work. It was a cosmetic renovation, so it went much quicker. And we are working through the refinance process right now on that one and are hoping to appraise around $275,000. The current debt on the property is $151,000, which gives us equity in this property at $123,000. Now, I own all these properties with a partner, as I stated earlier, and so while our equity in all three properties is around $328,000, my portion is only $164,000, or half of that. Now, I'll go ahead and pull up mint.com over here, and as we take a look at this is where I track everything that has to do with my net worth, from cash, loans, whatever, investments. This does not have any of my business assets when it comes to like cash in the bank for business accounts. I like to keep that separate. So we see here, I've currently got around $45,000 in cash, around $1,500 on credit cards, and I have a little bit of money in the stock market in the form of a mutual fund totaling $15,000. Now, if we look on Mint, it says I have no loans, right? It has a $0 balance, and that's because I calculate everything outside of Mint in a Google spreadsheet just to keep things clean, because when you start adding properties and loans that you don't fully own, so I own 50%, it's very hard to calculate in Mint. So I calculate that all outside of Mint, and we see under property on Mint that I have equity of $164,000. That takes into account the previous assets and liabilities that I talked about earlier. I also have another $15,000 invested with Cardone Capital, which, kind of a mistake for somebody who invests full-time in real estate to put cash into a syndication that will clearly net me less than I could do on my own. However, I did that a couple years ago when I wasn't too confident in what I was doing. I have another $6,400 in crypto investments. Funny thing about these investments is I bought them back in 2017 at the height of FOMO when it comes to buying crypto. And that investment went down to $900 and is now back up to pretty much break even what I put into it 4 years ago or so, 3-4 years ago. I'll go ahead and make a video in the future talking about those investments. And finally, my car, which probably should not be included in my net worth, but it's only worth around $1,800, so next to nothing, doesn't really sway the numbers that much, so I'll leave it in here. So guys, that brings my current net worth to $246,000, give or take. Now, I do have some money, like I said, in business bank accounts that split between myself and my partner that kind of funds our operations. That's in total around $10,000, so give or take, my net worth is around $250,000 if we consider that as well. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My net worth is around $250,000, or a quarter of the way to my $1 million net worth goal by 30. It's been about 3 years, so I really got to pick up the pace. However, I'm hoping that, it's exponential growth. So I'm starting with next to nothing, I was better off than a lot of people. However, starting with little money, so getting a couple properties under my belt. Now as we refinance the latest property, I should have $60,000, $70,000 to play with and throw into new investments and start to make money quicker. They always say the first $100,000 is the hardest. So far, it seems like the first $200,000 was pretty hard. And leave it to real estate to always make you feel like you don't have enough money no matter how much you have. And so now I'm learning how to raise money from investors and buy bigger properties instead of relying on my own funds, because no matter how much money I have, I will always run out once I push that money into assets. So if I want to continue to grow my business, I need to learn that side of the business, working with investors. So I'll keep you guys updated on that as I learn, as I push into my first larger property here in 2021, hopefully pushing into 10 to 20 units. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. But guys, that's all I have for you today. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end here. Once again, go ahead and like this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I talk about real estate and finance and maybe venture into a few other topics as we go. So guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.